I love our internet. Hi, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Crush Club chat. Joining me tonight is Andrew Windsor, our winemaker.
Good evening.
And if you don't know me, I'm Shalane Sleegers, our direct-to-consumer wine club manager.
Webinar hostess.
With the mostest, obviously. Duh.
So what are we up to tonight, Shalane?
We're going to be drinking through our 2018 spring releases. So this is the wine that you got into your club pack. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to try it. If not, now is the perfect time for you to open up a bottle.
Or two.
Or six.
On a Tuesday. 2 on a Tuesday.
Well, we're opening 6 on a Tuesday, so we're okay. We're going to be okay.
I may have started earlier, too, so I might be exceeding 6 today.
I may have started earlier as well. Shh, don't tell.
All right.
All right, so we're going to start off with our 27 Pinot Gris.
2017, yes.
Yes.
Okay, 2017. Well, what are your thoughts of the wines already, Shalane?
Oh,
I'm going to deflect straight to you.
I knew he was going to do that.
Because I'll just start getting geeky, and I'd prefer a more...
I like it. I was in the tasting bar this morning, actually, while the tasting room staff were on some training at Red Rooster. And I really love our Pinot Gris. I find that it's like medium to full body. It has some great tropical fruit on it. Mm-hmm. I call this my patio pounder. I essentially just want to drink this through a straw with some hot stud fanning me.
Yeah.
On a
I have the exact same image in my head when I think of Pinot Gris.
But it's Moon who's fanning you, right? I thought so.
In a vineyard, of course. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
So tell me about the making of this wine. What's your process on it? How was the vintage? All that good stuff.
Yes. So 17 was a really, really great vintage for white wines. In general, it was, I'm trying to think now, my 4th vintage here, and by far the most, the coolest, let's just say, certainly during the harvest season as well. So you'll notice, I mean, in terms of wine production, the wine has not changed. We still really do quite natural, non-manipulative winemaking techniques. But the hallmark of this wine is the freshness, the brightness. When you look at the 14 and the 15 that were hotter vintages, 16 was hotter, but a very unique flavor profile with a little bit of botrytis and slightly sweeter finish. 17 goes back to, I think, more of the Sandra Oldfield days where it's drier and a bit fresher and more austere, which I think is a nice, refreshing change. And the feedback's been great. Everyone really, really likes this wine.
I love it. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I definitely love this one. And don't forget, everybody, if you have any questions, Jessica will be behind. We didn't introduce Jessica.
Oh, I'm not.
Oh, my God.
Sorry, who?
Who? We totally Crush Club chat failed.
We did.
And so
but everyone knows Jessica.
Hi.
That laugh is
really
unforgettable.
It's a busy corner in our corner.
It is.
It's a loud corner, if you will, but it's a good corner.
Well, we just kind of came out of the gate really excited about the Pinot Gris.
We were really excited about the Pinot Gris.
All the hardworking people behind the scenes.
Yes, it's true. So so if you have any,
I have a question.
Sure.
From Carol.
Hi, Carol.
She's wondering if the grapes are estate grown or from the Golden Mile.
Well, they're both, and we do Pinot Gris is one of the few varieties that we do also source externally. So we have 4 different blocks here on the Golden Mile bench. Cooler vintages like 2017, we typically will pick those over a couple of weeks, so we'll get different levels of ripeness. We also have 2 blocks on the Black Sage bench, which again, grown on sandier soils, lead to a bit more fleshy, richer style of Pinot Gris. And then we do also source a little bit of fruit from just north of Oliver as well. That adds a bit more brightness and freshness to the wine. So it's still all pretty much South Okanagan vineyard sites. But we only make 1 Pinot Gris, and I think for us, the aim is to make it a consistently fresh style every year. And I like it to be a wine that we can release early in the year. Certainly, spring club ship mints that the wine's ready to drink right when you guys get it. Fresh and delicious. Yeah. So.
I hope that answers Carol's question. I'm sure there'll be more.
There is more.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Do you want another one?
Yeah.
So from Lord, we have what's next in the innovation series because the white Pinot was amazing.
Well.
Whoopsies! I've been selling some white Pinot.
I didn't think that was allowed.
It was allowed because remember when we went to Alberta together and I sold it to a whole entire dinner of people?
You don't have to justify it to me. I
asked Jen.
The story has changed.
No, I asked Jen.
But I'm glad
permission.
because our club members, I think, deserve a crack at some of these wines. And not everybody clearly has the opportunity to come to BC and certainly to come to Miradoro and try them.
Mm-hmm.
But they are, very small production wines. And if we kind of went carte blanche and gave them all to the club, you guys would probably drink them all. And that's, we want to draw people to Miradoro and to our estate so that they can come and enjoy this beautiful site. What's in the pipeline for Innovation Series? Well, you'll have to wait till the next release. Can't let the cat out of the bag.
Oh, I want to tell you guys so bad.
But I had some today, and it's tasty. And then, well, I'll say there's two. There is two coming out this year.
Okay.
But that's all I'll say.
That's all you're going to say?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you see, with the white Pinot, I just kind of asked for forgiveness later.
Right.
In all fairness.
Yeah.
And then I got the okay. I try to play by the rules. Ish. Rules light.
Right. Rules-ish. No, I had the white Pinot for dinner yesterday with some trade that came through town. And it's the first time I've had it in probably 2 months. And it's drinking better now than it has at any point in time. So if you have just picked some up through the club, then you are getting this wine, I think, probably close to its peak. It could get better, but I mean, it's the best I've ever tasted it as of yesterday. So tasty wine. Manny at Miradoro, Jan, our sales and marketing director, everybody wants us to make it again, which is always a positive thing. But I've got a lot more innovative things that I would like to make as well. So
fair enough. I get it. But maybe why does it have to be an innovation series?
Next question.
Steven's drinking a long Pinot Gris with you right now. So
oh, nice.
Some members drinking along in the audience.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we should move on to the rosé.
Absolutely.
The lover of all loves.
I think we have one more Pinot Gris question.
All right.
Okay.
Get them in while you can.
Yeah.
Because Shalane and I are moving on.
Are these the same vineyards that are used every year for the Pinot Gris?
Yes.
Yes?
Since 2015, yes. Okay. 2017 Cab Franc Rosé. We don't have to do that anymore, do we? Because nobody can see anything. But this is a beautiful looking wine. I just like to point that part of it out. 100% Cab Franc Rosé, as it has been every year but one, and certainly every year I've been here. I really think I'm finally getting this wine after 4 vintages closer to where I would like it to be. It's always kind of been a work in progress, and rosé is a wine that a winemaker has a lot to say about how it ends up tasting. A lot of our wines are much more driven by sight, and for better or for worse, I can usually blame Andrew Moon if anything goes wrong. But rosé is a wine that really responds to the winemaker's hand, and the first and foremost, it's the color that gets it off the shelf.
This is beautiful.
Yeah.
I have to say that, well, we've both been here since 2014, right? You just had your 4-year anniversary. Mine's coming up. And this has to be by far my favorite rosé.
It's a little bit drier than the last 3. And to me, the biggest difference is usually our rosé at this time of the year is very fruity still, very strawberry jam, sort of almost like strawberry creamsicle flavor profile. And that will persist until July or August. and then the strawberryness sort of subsides, and the spiciness comes through, and the complexity comes through.
Okay.
This year, we're already a little bit more advanced, I think. The strawberry component is still there, but it's a much more subtle strawberry jam flavor. You get more rhubarb, and you get more spice and more complexity already, which is great, because usually by the time we get to this stage in previous vintages, the wine's long sold out, and for the most part, generally consumed by then.
Now, there's different ways to make a rosé. What's the way that we use at Tinhorn Creek?
So typical methods would be saignée, which if your Latin is good, just means like bleeding off. And so that process is you'll put the red berries into a tank, and then you'll allow the fermentation to start a little bit, or you'll have at least some sort of skin contact for 48 hours or more. Generally, it's easier sort of technically to let the ferment start so that the berries separate from the juice.
Okay.
And then that allows you to actually draw off the juice much easier and cleaner. And then you'd ferment that juice separately, and then the skins you would either press and discard, or you would add more red fruit to it and ferment it as a red wine. We don't do the saignée process, which is a bit more of a traditional approach. We use a direct press. Not nearly as sexy sounding, but it allows you to sort of pick up much less color. So we typically will machine harvest our Cabernet Franc. We send Mooney and his team out as early as possible, so that the grapes come in as cold as possible. And then so they're left in bins for 14 and 15 vintages, about 12 hours. And then in 16, that year when we picked our rosé, the press broke, which is never a good sign when you're trying to get colors correct from a technical perspective.
Yeah.
So that year it ended up staying on skins for 24 hours, if not a little bit longer, and the wine accidentally ended up being better.
That's a really bad accident to have happen.
Well,
like
you don't.
It was an accident to have happen.
Well, sometimes in life, you learn from things that you can't control, and that was a perfect example. So, 17 again, we ended up moving to a 24-hour skin contact, and then we just put it in the press and press it directly. So, instead of more or less me and my team having a very long day waiting for the rosé to be extracted in terms of color and flavor in a bin and doing it in one day, we now can go home at a reasonable hour, wake up the next day, come back, plop it in the press, and it makes better wine. So
there you go. It's a win-win, really.
Yes. Sometimes you learn by accident.
Right, and that's a great thing. So for like rosés, I think they're gaining more in popularity. I can see that. Like usually, we've made a little bit more of it this year, right?
When I started in 14, we were about 800 cases of rosé.
Okay.
And the 13 vintage was taking 12 months to sell out.
And now
we're up to 1,200 cases, and we still sell out in about 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, like this probably won't see the light of August.
No, not a chance.
Yeah,
not a chance. No. Even at the restaurant, it's usually gone by August. And he gets the majority of the allocation.
He does get the majority of the allocation.
Sneaky Miradoro.
And that's why I'm selling white Pinot. Right there. It all comes full circle.
That's why.
And do we grow for the Cabernet Franc? Like, do we change the blocks where it comes from, or does it come from the same block every year?
No, it's been consistently coming from the bottom of the slope of our Diamondback vineyard. So, if you're familiar with the Okanagan, you've got the valley floor, and then as you sort of move into our vineyard on Diamondback, which is on the Black Sage Bench, sort of a west-facing vineyard that climbs up the mountains to the east, up Anarchist Mountain. The bottom of that vineyard tends to be cooler, as the cooler air pockets in the bottom of the valley, so it tends to ripen slower The acidity is higher, and we've been, at least since I've been here, cherry picking that bottom block of Cabernet Franc for this wine every year. Yeah, and we also manage the vineyard differently as well. We get more sun exposure. So it's more of an Andrew Moon story, but we do manage it differently viticulturally, and then obviously in the cellar we do the whole.
I have to admit,
direct press.
I'm really hoping that there's questions about the rosé because I really don't want to pour this out.
No, yeah, let's.
I really need some.
Come on around.
They're leaving me empty-handed. I have no wine in my glass.
It's all a part of our evil plan, Jessica.
I'm not sure. There you go. Is that plenty?
Yes, thank you.
That was, well, I'm going through 4 more wines. Never mind.
That's true. We've got some work to do still.
Is there any questions about the rosé at all, Jess?
Oh, I have a question about Andrew Moon.
Uh-oh. We can talk about him. He's not here.
How long has Andrew Moon been the vineyard guy?
Oh.
08?
Was it 08?
It's been around.
I believe it's 08. He started in 08. I don't know if he managed the 08. Yeah, I think he did manage the 08 vintage. I should know this because that would put him at his 10th year this year, but we haven't celebrated it yet.
No, and I keep thinking that it's either, in my mind, I think it's 07 or 09. So 08 is like a happy medium.
Yeah.
It's the average of all of them, right?
I actually have a few questions about the rosé. So we only produce our Oldfield Reserve rosé.
Correct.
The question why we just do the one, or just
as in why do we only
why
make
we
one
don't have a varietal?
rosé?
We have two of almost like we have a varietal of everything else.
We do.
Rosé.
And I would say maybe in some circumstances we don't need 2 versions of all the varieties that we do. I think we could do a rosé of Malbec or something like that, but I think one rosé for a business like ours is pretty normal. You wouldn't find too many wineries in the Okanagan that are cranking out 3 or 4 different rosés. Mind you, I would be all for trying different grape varieties and different rosés. For us, it's always nothing with us making more of the rosé is that everyone gets upset when we run out of the red Cab Franc, and our supply is what it is. So if we're going to make more rosé, we'll make less red wine, and that upsets people too.
I think there would be a mutiny if we did less Cab Franc. Honestly, judging from emails and phone calls, there would definitely be a mutiny.
But it's a good question because I think exploring, having one winery that has the ability to maybe make at least two different rosés from 2 different varieties would give our consumers an opportunity to understand the difference of expression of different varieties through rosé.
Carol wants to know, she doesn't want us to make less Cab Franc.
Yeah, I knew that was going to come out.
Yeah.
But the rosé questions came along that I got to finish my rosé while you were talking. So thank you, club members. I appreciate it.
Do I have time to finish mine? Is there one more question?
Yeah. So do you think rosé is more popular nowadays, or is sparkling bounding ahead?
Ooh. That's a good question.
So the answer to that from me, and I only found this out, I think, early last year, maybe the year before. France drinks more rosé than they do white wine. So when you put it into that context, I would have to say rosé consumption is higher than sparkling. Certainly in Canada, where we still have this misconception that sparkling wine is only suitable for celebratory purposes. When I lived in Australia, Friday was a celebratory purpose.
I think Tuesdays are pretty celebratory. Just saying,
So I think until we kind of get over that hurdle, which we're starting to see. I mean, you're starting to see a lot of producers here in the Okanagan come out with sparkling wines that hadn't in the past. I think the challenge is from a winemaking perspective, sparkling wine requires some technical skill, and it's not something that you kind of just launch out and just say, okay, well, I can make a sparkling wine and succeed at it. So, but rosé is a bit different. It requires a sort of a deft touch to get the color right and the flavors right, but it's essentially just red grapes made into a much more refreshing white wine style. So I would expect to see rosé continue to grow substantially. Sparkling wine will be keeping up, but sparkling wine, based on the efforts involved and the skill required, is always going to be more expensive anyways. So you can get a great rosé at the $20 price point. If you're shopping for $20 sparkling wine, you can get some good cava, but it's pretty limited to that.
I think just from like a tasting room perspective of being behind the bar, as well as I think that people's opinion of rosé is changing a lot now as well. Like when people used to see pink wine, I think they go back to that muscle memory of like
Mateus rosé.
Yeah, and like white Zinfandel and like poor life decisions. I made a lot of poor life decisions on white Zinfandel. That's a webinar for another night.
I wouldn't blame yourself. I'd blame the white
Zinfandel, of course, obviously.
Your decision making.
But I think people kind of, for a long time, they kind of had that memory, right? Like, ooh. And now they're getting over it, right? And you see more and more people. I see more men loving rosé now as well. So yeah, I think it's just overall a really great thing. I like to see the world through rosé colored glasses.
Definitely. Well, it's delicious and very diverse. I love rosé. I pretty much will stop drinking it as of Thanksgiving. For me, it's a seasonal wine. Once we get into our Canadian winters, I definitely will shift to something like this or the next wine where there's some more warmth and some more weight, and it pairs with us eating heavier foods. I stopped eating salad pretty much mid-August. That's usually my
your mantra,
food selections.
You're just like no more.
I start rolling into like shepherd's pie and roasts.
You know that it's like still 43 degrees here.
Oh no, it's still spring here.
Yeah,
and but it's been nice.
It has. It's been a really great spring so far. Yeah. So next up,
we have
our 2017 Gewürztraminer, and I just had my first little smell, and oh dear God, hello lover.
It settled down a little bit. Yeah. So I haven't had this wine since we bottled it, which was relatively recently, just in the nick of time for the Crush Club delivery.
Yes, it was.
But Shalane was a little bit stressed, let's say. I
was drinking a lot.
Late March. And this wine, when we bottled it, was just pure bananas and like juicy fruit gum, which it typically is. Our Gewürztraminers, once they're like straight out of the gate, are very estery and aromatic. But this is already evolving nicely about a month and a half in.
This is beautiful.
Yeah.
This makes me happy.
And why so?
It just, you get the lychee on it. You get that faint floral, but it's not huge. I like the viscosity of this vintage. It's a little lighter than the 16, and definitely probably back to regular residual sugar, I'm guessing. It doesn't seem quite as sweet.
No, the 16 was definitely a bit of an anomaly for us because if you watched the spring release last year when we released the 16, it was botrytized fruit, which adds a whole new dimension of complexity, but also sweetness as a consequence. This year, as we typically see, no botrytis, but again, very ripe fruit, properly ripened fruit. We have 20-plus-year-old vines on site here that really allow us to create a Gewürztraminer with some concentration and some power, but without the botrytis, we're looking at probably 10 grams less sugar, and I think a bit more traditional for Tinhorn, at least looking back to 2014 or 2015. Yeah.
Now that you said juicy fruit gum, though,
it's all you get.
It's all I get, and I've got that that horrible commercial.
You're gonna have some, Jessica?
Coming through.
It's got rosé.
Oh.
Never mind.
You poured me a pretty big glass.
You can do it.
I did.
Believe in you.
I did.
But yeah, but it is. And now I just have that juicy fruit.
And the commercials are great.
Really. I feel like I need leg warmers and a headband right now.
I think, oh no, spearmint gum is when we play tennis, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the Doublemint
Yeah.
Twins. Yeah.
Right, okay.
We know too much about gum commercials. That's also my other thing
I
that,
think that's showing our maturity.
right?
But yeah, no, delicious wine. The juicy fruit is subsiding, which is great because it does start to show more lychee, more dried mango, and more tropical fruit as opposed to just the banana.
Yeah,
Sweetness.
it's almost like a dry, like banana chip, almost.
I tend to not eat banana
Like those
chips.
like dried banana chips that
Yeah.
you buy at bulk in the store.
Yeah.
I had some of those recently.
Really?
Yeah.
Were they good?
I'm gonna have to taste the Gewürztraminer and compare. Got me thinking
I don't eat banana chips. I like dried mango.
They're good.
I'm a
Dry.
huge mango person, whether it be dry or fresh.
Okay. I know you have a question, but I just want to comment on Shalann's comment on not liking dried mango. I think as Canadians, I'm going on a bit of a diatribe here. As Canadians, we do not get good mango. So do not form an opinion on mangoes based on Canadian mango access. I mean, there is no mangoes grown here. And I'll leave it there. But if you live in Australia, you live in a place where they have mangoes growing on like the boulevard, you can actually grab them, crush them. They're absolutely delicious.
It's not the taste; it's the texture.
That's the difference. That's the
There's
difference.
a texture issue.
Apparently those commercials haven't been on TV in 20 years that you were
I'm only 19 now. How is that possible?
What? I'm not a dude. We're 22.
They did have wooden tennis rackets, so I think that might be telling.
Yeah.
But yes, the mango issue is the texture.
It's that.
That's the difference.
Yeah. Okay.
When you have a proper mango from a country that ripens them there, as opposed to picking them green, shipping them up from Central America, they show up here and they're kind of grainy, gritty. But if you get
slimy.
But if you get them ripe from a tree, then they're actually deliciously soft and, and tasty.
I'm going to give mangoes a second chance.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to get out of this entire diatribe.
Are you ready for another question from a club member?
Yes. Wow, she's sassy pants tonight. Well, we did just go on like a mango diatribe in all fairness, so I get it.
They're just trying to calm me down.
Is the Canadian Gewürztraminer drier or less sweet than other countries?
That's a very general question. Do you want to have a stab at this? Do
we make a drier Gewürztraminer here than other countries?
I think we make a Gewürztraminer. I think Canadian Gewürztraminers in general would be drier, certainly than your typical Alsatian Gewürztraminer. There's not a lot of countries that produce Gewürztraminer. New Zealand, Australia, they might have a few producers that have a stab at it. We actually, at 4,000 to 5,000 cases of more or less a state Gewürztraminer, are probably surprisingly one of the bigger producers of Gewürztraminer anywhere. Most Alsatian Gewürztraminer producers, aside from a co-op, say like Pfaffenheim, would be maybe 1,000 cases. Maybe
really?
2. So probably thankfully to our club members and our local consumers, we've been very successful with Gewürztraminer, which to me is, I haven't figured out why. I mean, I think the quality to price ratio is exceptional. And when I look at the sites that we have here, certainly on the Golden Mile bench with our older 20-plus-year-old vines, are equal to that of some of the most esteemed terroirs in Alsace, then yes. But the reality is not a lot of people in the world love Gewürztraminer. It's a very polarizing wine. and varietal to begin with. But I think we make an exceptional version of it, and I'm not surprised. Is it sweeter or is it drier? It depends on the vintage, it depends on the country, and it depends on the producer. But I don't really look at Gewürztraminer in like a sweet to dry spectrum. I look to it for, is it actually complex, and is it going to evolve nicely and be an age-worthy wine? And we release our Gewürztraminer quite young and quite early, but the reality is this wine starts to really sing and hit its stride after about 2 years. It will easily age for 15 years. And
see, that blows my mind.
And that's the difference. You go to Alsace, you won't even get a Gewürztraminer that is, we're pouring a 17. They'll be releasing 2014, maybe a 2015. So they're holding theirs back either in foudre, like a large barrel, to age longer, or in bottle for twice as long as us.
Yeah, I remember the first tasting that we did. So the tasting room, Andrew comes in and does tastings with all the tasting room staff and anyone else who wants to sit in and taste through our new releases, so that the tasting room staff can essentially speak to them in the tasting room, right?
Yep.
And I remember the first time you said, yeah, you can age a Gewürztraminer for 10, 20 years. And I was blown, because we just have that mindset. I think especially in Canada, that you drink your whites very young and you age your reds.
Yes.
And that cellaring whites isn't a thing. Nobody really does it. So it just kind of blew my mind.
And I think that's an unfortunate reality of our market, because we're mostly, everyone that has access to wine, except for our lovely neighbors in Alberta, we're all at the whim of the monopolies that essentially run the distribution of all wines. And as a consequence, they want to turn over wines within a 12-month cycle. You go to Europe and you walk into a wine shop in the town of Hermitage in France, and you could walk in there and you could buy a library of Syrah going back 10 years. Whereas here, unless that's like the current release from a particular region that's 5 or 6 years old, you're buying the youngest wine for sale all the time. And so we're kind of, unfortunately, on this cycle of, we need to be drinking young wines all the time. Whereas in Europe, and anyone that really has the ability and the capacity to age wines and appreciate them, they understand that the older the wines get, the more complex they get and the more interesting they become. Next wine.
Do we have any more questions about Goo? No?
Yeah. Carol actually had a question. She's wondering how much the market influences your choices as a winemaker. Pretty
much zero.
Zero?
Yeah. I make wines that I like to drink, really. But I also make wines that our sites essentially express. So I tend to be very passive in terms of the winemaking approach. To be honest, I think if you try and chase the market in the wine industry, you'll end up never succeeding, because the process takes too long. Market trends will change in 6 to 12 months, and it takes us 5 years to replant a vineyard and get a product from it. Could I make a wine sweeter or more dry? Absolutely, I could. But for me, for the most part, I just let nature be the decision maker. And I find, again, most of our wines are fermented without any additives or without any yeast added. I don't shut the ferments down. They tend to stop on their own. And I find nature provides you with the perfect balance. And so I don't try to mess with that, sweet or dry or market or not. Yeah.
I think you're right though, because market trends change all the time. You blink and there's something else that's trendy. And if you're always trying to keep up with that, and I think that it tires the consumer, like the consumer that actually is brand loyal, that, there's a level of expectation. If you're always trying the newest and brightest thing, really you're not known for making quality wine sometimes.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, it's not beer and it's not cocktails. We're not making a new batch every month. We have, Andrew Moon spends essentially 12 months of the year trying to get the perfect grapes for the wines that we're trying to make and to express the sites that we grow our grapes on. And my job is just really not to screw that up once I get the grapes and put it into a bottle. So I just try and find the right avenues to allow the wines to express themselves. And that's what makes, I think, wine a different beverage than beer, than cocktails, than mixed drinks in cans or however you find them. And that's why people are willing to spend, not necessarily with us, but with prestigious sites in Europe or California. People spend $500,000, $5,000 on a bottle of wine because it is a unique expression of what it is. It's not something made. It is what it is.
Do you think they drink that, or do you think they buy it for the prestige of it, of saying, I have this bottle?
Well, wine, interesting question. If you just look at first growth Bordeaux, which are typically, right up there with the most expensive wines in the world and typically set the high-end benchmarks. If you track those against the stock market, they perform better. So actually, wine is a very good investment at the high level. But that's getting really boring. So let's drink some Chardonnay.
Jessica didn't even have to give you the signal.
This is my favorite, so I need to come around.
Oh, she chugged that rosé pretty quickly. Hey,
yeah,
I see how this is.
Favorite. So.
Oh, I like these generous pours.
So what are we drinking here, Shalane?
All right, we're drinking the 2016.
Oh, we are too.
Oakfield Reserve Chardonnay. So this bad boy just won gold too.
Did it?
Yeah, at Best of Varietal.
I think the medal's behind you, actually, somewhere there.
It is.
Right behind Shalane.
Oh,
yeah. It is. I do like showing off a medal because I'm really competitive.
I should know these things, especially considering I was at the award ceremony. And I went,
lest you forget, Windsor. Lest you forget.
Well, I always appreciate winning medals, but I don't make wines to win.
I know,
to win
but it's
medals.
something to be proud of, though. I think you could still be proud of that. So this is our third vintage of this, correct? So we did 14, 15,
16.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. My math's great.
That's why he's a winemaker.
Yeah.
And so I feel like since you've come on board as our winemaker, our Chardonnay program has changed in a crazy good way. I really love and I was an ABCer. I'm not going to lie.
So was my mom.
I was your mom.
Traumatic years of my life. And now this is all she buys.
All she buys.
I think she bought a third of. Hi, Sue in Florida. Hi, Ma. She probably bought a third of the production, actually. Shipped down there.
The 14 definitely. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I'm just waiting for the 16.
So yes, the Chardonnay program has changed a lot. I mean, this wine didn't exist until I came out with the first inception of it, knowing that we had the Okanagan Golden Mile Bench Sub GI sort of in the midst of being approved. I held this one section aside to make it as a reserve style, and the 14 was successful. And I think every little batch that we've made since then has done well. We only make 300 cases of the wine roughly every year, but when you dial it back to even the varietal series Chardonnay. Cassandra made wine here for 20 years. And again, I think it ebbs and flows. If you try to follow the market and go for an unoaked Chardonnay, and then 3 years later you go back to an oak Chardonnay, and then you go to an unoaked Chardonnay, you kind of get a bit of a mixed message. And for me, Chardonnay is probably, of all the white wines, I probably drink more Chardonnay than anything else. to me, it's kind of like rosé. Of the white wines, it is very site expressive, but it's also very receptive to winemaking inputs. And so immediately I started barrel fermenting some of our Chardonnay, which hadn't been done here for a number of years prior to 2014. And as a consequence, that I think most people that appreciate Chardonnay are looking for some oak. I think there's the people that want unoaked Chardonnay, but those are also the sort of anything but Chardonnay people. And they're not the ones that are going to actually pay for a quality Chardonnay at the plus $20 price point.
Yeah, you know, it's surprising. I brought my girlfriend in here actually, and she was an ABCer for sure. And then I'm just like, you know what, just try it. It's honestly, just try it.
Oh, that's good.
Right? Well, we need a lot of questions on this one as well. And she's just like, is it oaked? And I was like, I'm not going to tell you. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to tell you what our oak program is for both our varietal and our Old Field Chardonnay. Mm-hmm. And she had them, and she bought a case of each. Yep. And she's just like, how oaked was it? I'm just like, wow.
100%.
But there's something about it. It doesn't feel, and I understand where she's coming from, because both her and I have come from working in the restaurant world, and we would try these big, huge Chardonnays, and it was like eating a butter stick while licking a barrel. And it was just too much. There was nothing else for it.
No substance.
There was no
that.
Yeah. And so for whatever reason, there's a muscle memory with that has lasted a really long time. But there's just a really nice, it's 100% oak, but there's a crisp acidity to it that is just really lovely. Yeah. I love this wine.
I think, and the great thing with working with our staff in the tasting room and getting their feedback when we're doing training with them is their response to our Chardonnays, whether it's the Reserve or the Varietal series, is they're constantly converting people that don't like Chardonnay.
It's constant.
And to me, that's, it's a no-brainer. I mean, yeah. It's a delicious wine, and I think a super great value as well. But I think, there, like you said, there's a lot of people that have a bit of a stigma against Chardonnay for it being too oaky. But the reality is, I think if they get a good version of an oaked Chardonnay, then that's the game changer. I don't think it's like they have an appreciation for unoaked Chardonnay. I think it's more about whether that oak Chardonnay was made well.
Yeah.
And if you're buying $12, $15 oak Chardonnays, they're probably not going to be that good no matter where they're from. I know we always like to slam California for being
California
for being the brunt of producing those over oaked styles, but I think the reality is with this wine, it is a bit of a throwback. I was in Napa last week, and a lot of the Chardonnays there are they're much leaner and tighter than they used to be. And my archetype for Chardonnay was David Ramey, and I pretty much just stole his handbook on how to make Chardonnay, and I've been going to that winery since 2010 with regularity, and his style has changed to be a little bit leaner, a little bit brighter, and a little less new oak. And I like it. I still love it. I think it's probably still a benchmark wine for me, but I like the wine from 2010. That is a little bit more flamboyant, a little bit more luxurious. And I think this style represents our terroir very well. Mm-hmm. We have no limestone, so we're not making Chablis here. We have granite-based soils that give you a lot of texture. And so we barrel fermented 100% new oak. And then we sort of look at the oak program for the next 12 months after that, depending on the vintage. And so this one went into about 30% new, second fill and third fill after the fact. So,
and just French oak, or is it going into French?
Just French.
Okay.
Just French. Yeah.
Could you see it? We do have our new concrete tulips.
Mm-hmm.
Notice how I said tulips?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have names for the tulips yet?
Shalana and Andrew. Shalandra? Shalandra 1 and Shalandra 2.
I love it.
I like it too.
We'll have to let the winery know. We're just like, Shalandru. It's been decided.
It has been
I do
decided.
have to say
the
that
webinar is
that this wine was my gateway drug to Chardonnay.
Mm.
Like, honestly, it's made, what it's done is because I've become a lover of this Chardonnay, that those Chardonnays that I had tried beforehand that I thought were, I have appreciation for them now.
Yes.
Because I think my palate is more refined now. I'm older. Like, I recognize what makes up a good wine. Something that I enjoy. Right? So. And
I think the nice thing about the wine is this one is probably I'm probably going to say it's the lightest of the 14, 15, and this being 16, which is nice. It doesn't always have to be the strongest wine. We're not trying to make a wine that's super powerful, but I want to make a wine that respects the vintage and respects the site, but still delivers on, I think, what people are expecting for what is still a $36, $35 Chardonnay.
Yeah, I think for club members it's like $30.
Right on the board behind you.
Oh, look at that.
29.
I should have those club prices memorized.
Oh, it's actually right in front of me. $34.99.
Yeah, and club is $29.74.
Which is an absolute steal.
I got these memorized.
Yeah.
So
any questions? Because I want to finish my glass of wine. How would you?
Horrible. We're not going to do the poll. It was just to tell you what your favorite spring release was, so you can just email us your answers.
You don't want to do the poll?
I don't think we have time. We have 2 more.
I think we have time.
We have time while we're drinking our Chardonnay.
Let's finish the Chardonnay.
Okay.
Let's do the quick poll.
So we have a quick poll to find out what your favorite 2018 spring release is. So yeah. So Jessica, what are their options?
We have the 2017 Pinot Gris.
Yeah.
The 2017 Oldfield Reserve Rosé or Brosé. It's all about the goo. 2017 Gewürztraminer. Chardonnay for Days. 2016 Oldfield Reserve Chardonnay. Pinot Power. 2016 Pinot Noir. And 2015 Oldfield Reserve Cab Franc.
She should be in like commercial radio or something.
Right.
With that little rant there. That was fabulous.
Yeah.
So how are we doing? We're getting some feedback?
Well, it's about 50-50 actually right now. Oh, no, just went down. 2015 Oldfield Reserve Cab Franc's in the lead, 67%.
Of course it is.
Rosé's at 33%. Come on, it's summertime.
I hope everyone that's voting for that Cabernet Franc bought more than one bottle.
Yeah.
And if you haven't bought more than one bottle, we are just a phone call or email away. Just saying.
I just had a recent question asking if all these wines are available, and they are available to club members.
They are definitely all available for club members. If you are a friend of a club member who is joining us tonight, send us an email, and I'm sure that we can make something happen, or join the wine club. We would love to welcome you into our family. So this is so good.
Good pitch.
Right?
This is getting really good. It was bottled in January, so
this is beautiful.
I probably wouldn't start looking at this wine until end of the summer, but this is coming on pretty strong right now. Like, it's going to be, I think, ready earlier than I anticipated. So
what was the overall for the poll?
Our winner is the 2015 Oldfield Reserve Cab Franc.
Okay, fair enough. We still have some Chardonnay to drink. Yeah. So in all fairness, I know what we're going to do.
We just got a vote for Chardonnay, and our vote went down. Somebody changed their mind.
Oh my God. Close the poll. Close the poll.
Close the poll. End poll.
So, you know what? Let's do this. Because at the end, we're always kind of like rushing to plug the next Crush Club chat.
Okay, you want to get it out now?
No, I think we should get it out now because it's actually really exciting.
What is it?
So it's Summer Entertaining.
Am I there?
You sure are there.
Fabulous.
And Andrew Moon is also there, and myself.
No.
And
a lot of personality
and Jessica. But here's what's really exciting is one of the things that when they were kitchen chats, one of the things that Sandra had always talked about was inviting club members to be a part of the webinars. So what we've done is we've invited 2 of our club members. So Carol will be joining us from.
Can we do it at the pool in the guest house?
We are. We're going to do it. They're staying at the guest house. We'll have a little barbecue beforehand. Perfect. So Carol will be joining us, and Ken and Jane will be joining us as well. So it's summer entertaining, but really it's a roundtable discussion. So we can be asking our club members questions, like why they joined the club, what they love about Tin Horn Creek. What's their favorite wine?
Should we maybe ask them to like pick their favorite, if they've been members for a while, to pick their favorite wine over the last couple of years, and we can draw some funky stuff from.
Yeah, I like your style.
The old times.
The old.
Yeah.
Anyways, and then they'll be asking us all their questions. So it's kind of
like, we've got to drink some wine. We just got to figure out what.
Oh, we're going to be drinking some wine.
Okay.
It's July. It's summer entertaining, obviously, but it's just our way.
Rosé vertical.
Ooh.
Why don't we do that on a poll?
I accidentally tasted a 2009 rosé recently.
So good.
So good.
But
what an accident.
I think that essentially what we'll do is that every year, and then I think next year what we'll do is we'll make it an enter to win. And so we'll draw some club members. Oh, this is sacrilege.
No.
We're on
Sorry.
to the next.
We can do more after the show.
I know we can. Okay, so next up,
yes,
we have our 2016 Pinot Noir. Delicious.
As you may notice, I'm a fan of this.
Oh, that's a big glass.
Oh.
They can see that from utter space.
Pardon me.
I think you might need a ride home tonight.
All right.
2016 Pinot Noir. Lovely Pinot vintage 2016. Again, very cool in September. The cooler vintages tend to really produce us with the best Pinot Noir and the best Syrah. And 2016 is exactly that. So quick nuts and bolts about the wine. It's about 15% whole cluster. So that means we take the bunches intact off of the vine, hand-picked. We put them in the bottom of the fermenter, and then we crush into stem to remove the berries from the rest of it, put that on top. That ferments naturally. We leave it on skins for about 2 weeks, and then it goes into larger format barrels by 2016. So typical barrels would be 225 liters. These are 400-liter barrels, all French, some of it new. And the big change in 2016 was that we took the wine out of oak earlier. And so you notice the zippiness and the freshness, that more cranberry flavor. So we backed off the oak aging by a couple of months. And I think the wine's benefited substantially as a consequence.
This is beautiful. Like, honestly,
I agree.
This makes me happy. Like, honestly, wow. Thank you.
Sorry, I slobbered a little bit there with the
trying
to aerate the wine.
I can't stop.
Yeah, no, I think this is probably by leaps and bounds my favorite Pinot that I've been able to make here in since 2014.
Just the nose on it makes me happy. Like I physically gasp after I smelt it. I'm like, ooh.
So I'm gonna go a little bit geeky, but only for like a minute or two. Volatile acidity is like a measurement that a lot of, let's say BCVQA or VQA, AOC, any of like quality regions around the world, they measure the volatile acidity, which is acetic acid, ethyl acetate. So if you've ever removed nail polish from your fingernails, which I do weekly, or smelled vinegar before. Those are the two main components of volatile acidity, which is a natural byproduct of yeast fermentation. Typical range would be around 0.7 to 0.8, let's say.
Okay.
That's when a wine starts to smell a little bit more tart.
Okay.
This is around 1.05, which is by far the highest I've ever bottled a red wine ever. By quite a lot.
But it doesn't smell tart.
No, but it smells intense. Like
you
can smell it from here. You don't have to put it here.
That's true.
So one thing that you do get from VA is the volatility of the aromatic compound. So the nose is very, very expressive. And I think it's damn beautiful.
It is really good.
Yeah.
And so can you... sometimes I've recommended to people that you can do Pinot a little bit chilled.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is a great summer red wine. This was like when I first moved to the Okanagan from Banff, I only drank Big Reds because it was always cold in Banff. It probably snowed every month, right?
Not a lot of white wine.
And I didn't drink a lot of white wine, and I blamed the sugar for giving me the headache, not the amount of wine that I was drinking the night before, as you do. And Pinot was a great little like step going into like going from big bold reds going into liking more white wine, but it was a good precursor for it. And I actually fell in love with our 2010 Oldfield Series Pinot Noir.
Pretty astounding wine. Again, cold vintage. That's the kicker right there.
And beautiful.
So we are very far south in the Okanagan. If anyone's been here, we're 15-minute drive from the Washington state border. One of the hottest regions in the country, but it is still cool climate. If you look at how cool it can get here, certainly at nighttime in cooler vintages like 10, I'll say 16, even though it was hot in February, March, April, May. Those cooler years really produce very expressive and beautiful Pinot Noirs. And again, as a wine that you want to drink this probably somewhere around cellar temperature, put it in the fridge, take it out for 30 minutes, and then pour it, and you're pretty much bang on.
Yeah, this is beautiful. What would you pair with this? I think this is really great just on its own. Like, I just want to finish this bottle after this Crush Club chat. Like,
well, there's a couple that you've been saying that about. More of this one?
We have shovel services.
Pardon?
We have shovel services, right?
Right. Hi,
Paul. Yeah, no, I mean, Pinot Noir, and I was at Cornucopia 2 years ago, which is a great wine festival in Whistler, British Columbia. And we were very lucky to be doing this super luxurious lunch with this chef crew from Mexico. And I was sitting down next to this Asian guy, and he said, Pinot Noir is the only wine that goes well with Asian food, Chinese food specifically, because they don't eat like courses. They don't have like a wine in a course and then switch it up every time. They order a bunch of stuff, and they put it on a table, and they spin it around, and they eat it all at the same time.
Yeah.
And so this wine is the most suitable to that whole broad range of spectrum of flavors that you get with Asian food. So, I mean, not only does Pinot Noir go well with duck, chicken, salmon, darker fishes, but spicy foods, soy. I mean, the range is huge. And so, I mean, if you're ever in doubt for what to pair a wine and food dish with, go to this Pinot. Absolutely.
So then it sounds like it does well with like dishes that are heavy in umami.
Yes, savory.
Yeah.
This and Syrah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Those two would pair very, very well.
I busted out my umami.
The sixth sense flavor.
I have a question from a club member. So while you're pairing this wine with a dish, what would be the best temperature to serve it at?
I would say anywhere around the 10 degrees Celsius range would be great. It depends on what you're doing. If you're outside on a patio and it's 30 degrees, drop the temp. If you're downstairs in a cellar and you're cold, let it come up. Okay.
Yeah. Me personally, I like throwing mine in the fridge for about 10 minutes, then it's 30-degree day and go outside.
Yeah, more. Don't worry, Shalom. I have more.
You're the one that went excessive.
This is winner of the poll.
This is the winner of the poll.
This is the poll winner.
Yeah.
We're going to have to speed this up. It's like literally 8 o'clock.
Okay.
But
Cab Franc Reserve Wine 2015 is it's the first.
We'll stay on. They love us.
Yeah. It's the first of the red reserves to be released from 2015 vintage. You guys probably have had the 2015 Varietal Series wines.
No, they just got it in their spring.
Come. Really?
Yeah.
So you'll notice, first thing, 2015, hot vintage, very powerful wines, lots of tannin, lots of fruit, to try and keep it short. In 24 years of grape growing at Tinhorn Creek, we've never had all of our Merlot picked before October, and 2015 was the first vintage that ever happened. And so same with the Cab Franc. It didn't hang much longer than the first week of October because, we're looking at very hot temperatures, accelerating levels of sugar. This wine is a great example of that vintage. It's got lots of muscle, lots of tannin. When I see people saying that this is the best wine of the spring ship, I can't disagree. But as I said, when I saw that poll come back, this wine needs probably 5 years at least. So we only made about 800 cases. If you drank the only one that you have, please get some more and age it for at least another 3 to 5 years. Because, I like tannic and strong wines too, which is why I love this wine as well. Yeah. But it's one that could really use a bit of time.
Yeah, no,
they
had the 15 varietal.
Yeah.
Last fall, and it's gone now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Less than 12 months, that wine.
Yeah. Oh, she's coming around.
Time for number 3.
So this wine has 15% Merlot. If you don't have the text sheets, which she's probably not posting because she's over here scavenging wine. 15% Merlot, roughly 35% new, oak, mostly French, a little bit Hungarian. But again, a wine that in this vintage we probably could have made twice as much. I don't know why we didn't, but that was the MO at the time. Yep.
We have a question from a club member.
Good.
Julian and Jeanette.
Hi, Julian and Jeanette. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on Sunday.
What's the main difference between the Cab Franc Oldfield Reserve and the regular varietal Cab Franc?
Good question. So I'll try and keep it short because we're already over time. And by short, I mean at least like 20 minutes of explanation here. So the varietal series Cab Franc is typically. But you're going to interject.
Well, the difference that I see in it is that the varietal typically tends to be 100% Cabernet Franc.
Yes.
Predominantly aged in American oak.
Nope.
No? Is it?
It used to be.
Used to be.
No longer, yes.
See, this is why I'm here.
That's
and then, but this is typically is Cab Franc and Merlot, and typically always
14 was the first blended reserve Cab Franc. 15 followed suit. So
is that the plan for them, is to be typically blended, or will you do 100%
I think
Cab
so.
Franc?
I mean, when you look at Bordeaux and you look at the history that they have, there's a benefit to blending and making the absolute best wine that we can. I think really what it comes down to is we make about 4,000 cases of the varietal series Cab Franc. We make 800 of this wine. In strong vintages, we could easily make twice as much. But what we do in terms of how it's made is we start with the Kriek. All the best Cab Franc that we need for that goes into the Kriek, and then we make this wine. For us, there's always, certainly in strong vintages like 2015, there's ample amounts of high quality Cab Franc. After a couple of vintages, I'm able to kind of decipher the best pockets in the vineyard, which are typically the higher elevation parts. They go into mostly French oak, typically 35% new. And then, to pull out 800 cases of very, very high quality Cab Franc is very easy for us in 3 out of the 4 vintages that I've worked here so far. So it also spends about 6 months more time in barrel. So that's another main difference. And then it gets more extended bottle aging, at least a couple of months as well. So that's it. That's the nerdy side of it.
All right.
But I think it just tastes damn good.
It does.
And that's the most important part.
It really is. So I think we managed to get through 6 wines. Once again, the webinars that I'm hosting is the one where we have to drink lots of wine. It's just kind of what happens.
That's what we do.
It's what we do.
We make wine.
We make wine. So are you going to be at pairings at Science World? on
It's the first I've heard
June
of it.
13th. Nope, he's not. So just a little reminder to our Lower Mainland members that if you purchase a minimum of 2 bottles right now, you can be entered to win 2 tickets to the pairings event at Science World on June 13th with a $250 value. So tickets are going for $125 per person, and we're giving those away. So you can do those orders for pickup or for ship. Remember, if you're coming to Viges, we can bring that wine to you. So get those orders, and we'll be shipping out that wine first thing tomorrow morning. Yeah, on the 3rd, on my birthday.
I don't get to attend.
But it's my birthday, guys. So if you're there, just saying.
I might just show up.
You should.
Balaclava or something.
All right, so that's us.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for your questions.
Yeah.
And thank you, Shalane, for being such a gracious host.
Oh my gosh.
We're out.
And thank you too, Jessica.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.